Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the review of the new science fiction thriller directed by the great, the legendary Steven Spielberg. Disclosure Day. This film stars Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Colman Domingo, Hewson. And this film asks everyone the question, if you found out we weren't alone, if someone showed you, proved to you that we're not alone, would it frighten you? This is a very interesting take on the UFO alien debate. I mean, do you really want to know? I mean, deep down, do everybody really want to know if there are aliens out there, if there are extraterrestrials out there? How would that change your view on life in general? And this film asks those questions. I really wasn't expecting. This movie was very vague in its promotion, in the lead up to its release. Didn't really give much information. You knew it had something to do with aliens and, you know, the government trying to cover it up and all that good stuff. That's all fine and good. Plus, Steven Spielberg, aliens, where can you go wrong? I mean, come on. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., less said about Crystal Skull, the better. But when Steven Spielberg dives into these alien questions, it's always an event. And we're in the middle of the summer movie season where, I mean, this is the time of the year, the blockbuster movie season that Steven Spielberg gave birth to well over, 40 years ago with Jaws. So for him to return in the summertime to give us this type of film, yes, sign me up. This movie, I must say, I enjoyed immensely. This was a return to form to Steven Spielberg. Do I feel this was one of Spielberg's best? No, I don't think it's one of his greatest films, but it's definitely his best films of the last 20 years. This was a return to form, man. I was so, you could feel Spielberg all over this movie. I mean, he wrote the story, he came up with the concept, he directed, produced. He had his fingers all through this, and you felt it in every frame of this movie. Let's talk about the cast of this film, starting with Emily Blunt. This was one of the best Emily Blunt performances ever. I fully expect to hear her name around award season towards the end of the year and the beginning of next year. This is a powerful performance by her. She was funny. She was emotional. Every emotion you can think of, that character gave us, and it was beautifully performed by Emily Blunt. I mean, she had a lot of heavy lifting to do because Emily Blunt's character, without getting into spoilers and all that good stuff, her character had to really, I don't know, tell the story without telling the story. Choosing to give her performance through her eyes, through her emotions, and not just blatantly saying, you know, and the stuff that she said that didn't quite make sense around the time of her speaking her dialogue or lines. It didn't make sense, yet you made sense of it, which kind of went with the flow of the movie, because the movie is asking us to kind of suspend disbelief in a lot of sense and trust the filmmakers and trust these actors to deliver, because we don't get to the crust of everything until virtually the third act of this movie, late in the third act of this movie. And so you have to put a lot of trust in the performances of our leads, and they do a marvelous job. Along with Emily Blunt, you got Josh O'Connor, who's I'm quickly becoming a big fan of his. I didn't know much about Josh O'Connor until I saw him in Wake Up Dead Man, that Knives Out movie. And that was my first time seeing him. Even though I know he was in other films, but that was my first time actually paying attention to him. Enjoyed him in that. It was something else I'm blanking on that I saw him in recently that I enjoyed him in. He was also good in here. Once again, just like Emily Blunt, we have to put a lot of trust in the actor here to explain what's going on without explaining what's going on. It's a real tightrope that they were walking throughout this film, without just blatantly spoon feeding the audience, and yet and still you can follow this story ever so clearly. Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor did marvelous here. Colin Firth as our main antagonist in this film. I love Colin Firth. Colin Firth, man, proves yet again that he has range outside of this stratosphere. He can be a hero. He can be play a king. He can play a prime minister. He can play a government agent, James Bond ripoff. He can play a villain here. He can do it all. He could be in kids movies and make that work. He is marvelous. And in this film, I really enjoyed him. If there's one knock I have about Colin Firth, we don't get much backstory on Colin Firth's character, which probably could have helped a little bit more, to really flush out his motivations, why he's doing what he's doing. We get the I guess you could say meat of the meal, he works for the government and he wants to retrieve this information. But his motivations, what makes him tick, and we didn't really get that in the film, but Colin Firth's performance was still intriguing enough to feel him being a threat, to really know that he is our antagonist here. Colman Domingo, this is the year of Domingo, man. He is in everything. And you know what impresses me about Colman Domingo? He's in everything, but he's not the same character in everything. Normally when we see a renaissance of a actor in back-to-back films or television shows, they're the same person. It becomes pretty easy for them because they're playing the same role, basically. Not Colman Domingo. Just this year, we've seen him in Disclosure Day. We've seen him on Euphoria. We've seen him in Michael as Joe Jackson. And that's just a tip of the iceberg because he was in many more films. But he was a different character in every one, and he knocked everyone out the park. And this film is no exception. Colman Domingo also did a marvelous job. Eve Hewson, who is, in case you don't know, this will help you out in trivia night. She's the daughter of Bono. Yes, from U2. Big fan of hers too. I seen her on a TV show, a Netflix series, I believe, with Nicole Kidman last year or maybe the year before last. And I was like, man, she was really good. Never seen her before, but she's really good. She's holding her own in that powerful cast that they had on their show. But the cast, no problems. Perfectly cast in this film. Everybody. Wyatt Russell is in this film as well. Loved his role. He probably had the funniest role or part of this movie. And once again, the only knock I have, we don't get enough of him. It's only maybe 3 or 4 scenes, but 3 at max scenes with Wyatt Russell. And every scene he was in was top notch. He elevated every scene, playing alongside of Emily Blunt there. And so awesome job. The direction, how can I criticize it? What can I say about it? It's Steven Spielberg, people. And this is his wheelhouse. Science fiction. This is what he do. And he did it well in this movie. This isn't your action-packed thrill ride, adrenaline rush type movie. If you go looking for that, it's not there. It's a Spielberg film. He's never given you that. Even in the Raiders movies, in the Indiana Jones films, they're not action packed. Yeah, there's action in them, but there are moments of subtlety throughout those movies. But this movie was telling a story that didn't rely on action and big car chases and things of that nature. Now, with that being said, that's in it. They have your car chases. You have your moments of tension. You know, there's a action sequence that involves a car and a train. Well, two trains, really. That was, oh my God, I never seen anything like that on screen before. And boy, was it tense. That was adrenaline filled. My heart was pounding watching that scene. Other scenes as well that action wise that were really, really well directed. But that's not what this film is about. And they were placed perfectly throughout the film. You know, you basically got three action sequences, one in the beginning, one in the middle, one in the end, and they all fit the story. Everything else was the tension, the hunt, the running, the searching for answers, and anticipating our two lead characters meeting up, linking up to get down to the bottom of what exactly is going on. And that just made it that much more heavier of a story. David Koepp, who wrote this isn't his first time with Spielberg. He wrote the Jurassic Park films. John Williams returns to do the score. John Williams is 94 years old. 94 years old and still delivering powerhouse scores yet again. He gave us a really good score. When these two come together, you want to talk about collaborations that just work. It is Spielberg and John Williams. They know each other backwards and forwards. I mean, hey, they both combined age of about 200. So they know each other well, and they worked on the vast majority of films together. I think Spielberg only did 2 films, if I'm not mistaken, without John Williams, one being The Color Purple, which is understandable, and the other one, I believe, is West Side Story. But I could be wrong on that. But I do know for certain he didn't work on The Color Purple. Everything else, John Williams was orchestrating or conducting that orchestra for Steven Spielberg film. Where the film kind of, I have my little problems with, where, number one, the film is just a smidge too long. It's an hour. I wish. No, it was 2 hours and 30 minutes. It was long. Now, it's not boring long. It's not you checking your watch long. It's just they could have ended it, I don't know, 10 minutes earlier, because you can watch the film while you're watching the film, and I did this. When you were watching the film and you know the precise moment where normally a movie would end, and it would have been the perfect ending to this movie, and it kept going. And it kept going, and the ending was what the ending was. That was my other problem with it. I didn't like how this movie faded to black, but you know, I get it. Now, with all that being said, here's why I absolutely love Disclosure Day. As I opened up this review and asked the question, do you want to know? Is it going to change your philosophy or how you look on life and stuff like that? This is basically what the movie is about. You know, you have a former nun who is one of our main characters, and she had left the church, and the question was asked to her, you know, well, you lost your faith. You left the church. And her response was like, no, I left the church, but I didn't lose my faith. And the question was posed to her, well, if you find this out to be true, would that change anything? You know, so her character kind of struggles with this throughout the film. And until we get to the end, and there's a conversation that takes place that I never looked at. Now, I'm a man of faith, so this is where this is where it resonated with me the most. I'm the way it was explained, and I'm not going to spoil it because I need everybody to go see this movie and go see it in the theater. It's really good. Is the fact that it is explained to the point where the two can coexist. You can still have belief in God. You can still have your faith and believe the fact that there are aliens. That's something that I always believed anyway. that never bothered me. I always felt that, but the way it was explained here kind of confirmed my feelings, and I accepted that. I was like, yeah, that is perfectly explained in this film. And I can't do anything but tip my hat to Steven Spielberg for raising that question, because it takes guts. Now, if anybody can get away with that, it's Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg can make any type of movie he wants and raise any question he wants. That's Steven Spielberg. Me trying to get funding for a film from a studio that poses questions that deal with faith or anything like that, they'll show me the door. They will show me the door. But man, this was a really good film that raises so many questions, but it answers so many as well. This movie doesn't really leave you ambiguous, other than its ending. But as far as the main story, it really goes through and answers those questions that you needed answered from this story. It just poses more philosophically and spiritually that, quite honest, I completely respect. I give Disclosure Day a letter grade of an A-. Yeah, this was Steven Spielberg at his finest, man. He was firing on all cylinders with Disclosure Day. So happy to see him just killing it. Killing it yet again. I'm so, in case you don't know, Spielberg is my favorite. I mean, as well as many millions of others. I'm not unique in saying that statement, but he has always been my favorite director. It has been so disappointing to see films like AI and, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull and the BFG and the Post and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, man! When is Spielberg when is he going to give us some good stuff? Some real entertaining stuff that brings me back to my childhood, watching films like all of the other Indiana Jones films and Hook and Jurassic Park, even Schindler's List and E.T. and all that good stuff. When am I get that back? Well, I believe we got it back with Disclosure Day. I would like to know your thoughts. How did you feel about Disclosure Day? You can contact the show on our website, thekbradionetwork.com. Leave a comment there. You can also look us up on social media. Just search for the KB Radio Network. And also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Disclosure Day. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.